Hey, y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. I am with Dr. Scott Walter again after a long hiatus. You have been in Germany. I have been very busy. We haven't had a chance to hook up, but we have so much to talk about in the humanoid robotics space. So it's welcome back, and it's good to have you back stateside again.
Hello, John. But first, this programming note.
Oh, okay.
For those who would like to catch me live during my Midwest Automation Tour, from September 8th to 11th, I will be at FabTech in the beautiful McCormick Place, Chicago, 60609. John, back to you.
I feel like we should put it in black and white. So it's like, I have to tell you, I have been obsessively watching 1950s and 60s NASA documentaries. Like they're posted on YouTube, and they're like, but the originals, and they're so fun because they're just like that. They're like, and yesterday we added the something tiles to the Mercury spacecraft, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right, cool, that's great. So.
Yes, but I think a small percentage of your audience will understand the Chicago zip code reference.
That sounds familiar, but I can't place it. What is that?
Beetle catalog, Chicago 60609. What is that, like the Price or Right or something like that?
Yeah, it was. That's right. That was always the thing.
That was like a Trivial Pursuit question, I think. Name a Chicago zip code. Everyone would blurt it out. They knew exactly.
None of the kids these days do. All right, so we are going to talk about humanoid robots. And I think we can cast this as figure versus Optimus. So there's been a lot on one side and less on another. And we're going to start with Optimus here. I'm going to turn the sound on for this one because actually, hopefully you'll be able to hear it because there's no music in this. The figure ones all have music, so I'm turning the sound off. So, but it's fine. So we'll have a lot to talk about, but I think first of all, we can watch this. It's 52 seconds long. Mark Benioff unofficially posted this. Definitely not a Tesla account that posted this, but.
Hey, Optimus, what are you doing there?
Just chilling, ready to help.
Hey, Optimus, do you know where I can get a Coke?
Sorry, I don't have real-time info, but I can take you to the kitchen if you want to check for a Coke there.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Go.
Yes, let's do that. Let's go.
Awesome. Let's head to the kitchen.
Okay.
Okay, go.
I think we need to give it a bit more room. Right now it's kind of paranoid about space. It'll be able to walk a lot faster too.
So could you hear that just to make sure?
Barely a little bit.
Oh, shoot.
I think in the edit we'll have to put it in there.
I'll pipe the sound in. Okay, so Mark asks questions, and then you hear Elon come in afterwards a little bit and say that the reason why he's frozen there is, I guess, because he has a perimeter sensor that's not
which is a good thing.
to move. Yeah, which is a good thing. So he needs to be, I think, a meter or two away before the robot will move. So anyway, so that part's cool. I guess first things first, like, what do you notice? Because this is clearly not your father's Optimus.
Yeah. Yes. So the first thing I noticed is I saw it on my cell phone, early in the morning, it was out there and didn't really have a chance to look at it really closely. And I was wondering, It's like, wait a minute, is this the prototype? But then I reserved judgment before posting anything and made sure I looked at in high resolution and looked at everything. So the first thing I think you can say about this is this set off a bit of a kerfuffle amongst the Tesla community, and some people kind of lamenting that this was an own goal. Why did they post this and stuff like that? And the first thing I did is, like, I kind of broke this whole thing. It's like, well, wait a minute, you just mentioned this was not from an official Tesla account. Maybe later Elon or someone may have reposted it, but it was not generated by that. It came from Mark Benioff's account directly. And I wasn't aware. I guess I wouldn't be surprised that he's a shareholder, but he's the CEO of Salesforce. And obviously Elon knows him. They've known themselves for years, and he was invited over. So a lot of the normal protocols that would happen to any visitor like you and me, a place like this, were completely circumvented. And the first thing is you surrender your cell phone and get a sticker on the camera, and you don't film anything without permission. And if you do, you get permission to whether you're going to post to social media or something like that. Basically, Elon just said, yeah, go ahead. And he may have been caught a little bit off guard, and there may have been some expectation that Optimus was going to perform a little bit better at this moment. But let's remember where they are. They are in an area where it's doing development. Yeah. Engineering is going on. Things are changing all the time, and something that worked 5 minutes ago suddenly won't work because they're trying to resolve some other issue or something like that.
Yeah.
My feeling is that what they wanted to show off here was the LLM integration, because we have not seen that at all. And we don't know whether Tesla was going to be doing it through their own LLM or whether they're going to be integrating Grok.
Right.
Turns out they're integrating Grok.
Yeah.
Didn't integrate it quite as well as they did in our Model Ys.
Right.
And I think I joked that the reason why it's laggy is because Optimus did not purchase the premium connectivity package. But all jokes aside, there may be a bit of truth to that, because I'm not sure what the connectivity is with this, whether it's Wi-Fi. I suspect they're using like 5G, because Wi-Fi is going to be kind of limited depending upon where you want to have these bots running. Right. So they have some sort of connectivity, and it may have just been like lagging for some reason, because we know Wi-Fi is great in one part of our house, and another part it just isn't good because something happens at that point. So there could be a whole bunch of reasons. And now the reason we know it was Grok is not because it says anything in there, but because someone from XAI said that Grok is now integrated in there, and someone asked him, why is it laggy? And he said, we're investigating.
Yeah.
So they're also like, all right, what's going on here? Yeah. So that's the first thing everyone noticed, is it was kind of slow to do that.
Too, though, is that even in the car, and so I would say probably it's not using Wi-Fi, but 5G inside of a building. Of course, 5G is never as good as outdoors.
Yes.
So you've got a reduction, but also that break in the middle of like Grok starts talking and then there's a delay and then it continues. I've had that happen several times in my car as well, talking to Grok. So it's a similar experience of it gets halfway through the verbalization and then stops and has to wait for the rest of it to come.
Yeah. Now, what they could be doing is they could have their own internal 5G network, which is sometimes what they do. They set up in factories or something like that. But you're right. Usually it's, for us, 5G is not so good inside the house as it is outside. Right. You will get that comment. You could also get it just because you're going from one cell to another all of a sudden, and something was interrupted in between there. I think the other thing is, depending upon how this is configured, it may have been a little bit thrown off by the question, because you notice it was trying to answer it, and it said, I don't have real-time information. Right. So it's like, I know where the Coke machine is, but I don't know if it's actually stocked.
Right. Right.
but he does know where the kitchen is. And so he taking so it might have been one of those things that it kind of caught him off guard. Just like, oh, I haven't had that question before. Let me think about that. And then he got tripped up because he's saying, oh, wait a minute, I could be giving a bad information. He's going to go there and he's going to be disappointed. So it's almost like it's being too honest.
Right.
in a sense, and realizing if I might lead you astray. So that's one thing. The other is how slow it was. I haven't quite figured out what the lights mean on the head yet.
I think
there are all sorts of weird lights.
Yeah,
but
I was
of them
point that out.
Yeah.
So he's white, and then when he talks, it turns like a bluish color, and then I think while it's thinking, it turns yellow.
Yellow.
And then when it actually gets it and kind of understands, because I think at this point,
it was like, yeah, let's go.
Hey, Optimus, you know where I can get a Coke?
Okay, so when he's talking to it, it's blue. Sorry, and then it turns like yellow while it's thinking, and then I think it turns this color here.
And there may have been a color indicating that people are too close. And that was sort of pointed out that they have a pretty large proximity sensor. And I suspect this proximity sensor is just the cameras. You can use that to identify, because there's going to be things around you and you have to be able to figure out, are they animate or inanimate objects? And you really need a camera to be able to do that. And an AI is going to do it. I actually interviewed someone recently from a company called Algorize about that. The kind of algorithms you can have for something like that, to be able to tell human presence in certain areas to make sure you navigate them safely. So that is a absolute positive. I actually like the fact that didn't happen, because it shows the safeties are working the way they're supposed to. Unlike some other bots that we are seeing coming from overseas that just run into people constantly and in crowds and really not having those safeguards in there. So that's a very positive
including
thing.
in the Olympics. I saw during the bot Olympics there was a crash. Yeah. So
I had a lot of takes on that. I was actually kind of underwhelmed. I know a lot of people, including myself, were expecting a little bit more because we had only been seeing these flashy videos, and we assumed that a lot of stuff we saw in those flashy videos would translate pretty well to the track. And it turned out it really did not. Everything from why weren't they autonomously running? Why did they have to actually have a guy with a remote who was trying to keep up with a bot? And at the same, even then with the remote, you should just say, just go straight and stay in the lane. You know, you should have basic lane keeping, even if you have to be within a certain distance with your remote. So yeah, there were a lot of things I was really, even the obstacle course, I was extremely disappointed with how slow they were going through the obstacle course. But
I do have to
that's another video.
I do have to point out though, that it was a couple of years ago where we suggested about Olympics.
Yeah.
I can't remember when, but we suggested this quite a while ago.
Now, this technically was not the Bot Olympics. The Bot Olympics was this past weekend, actually in Olympia, Greece. And the one that we're referring to is actually the humanoid championships in China. So the Bot Olympics in Greece actually had permission from the International Olympic Committee to say it was a humanoid Olympiad. So that's but it wasn't as well attended as these games, but they hope to make it yearly and eventually to make it a much bigger participation. Yes.
Cool. So, all right. So let's move from the LLM, which I think again was what they were trying to show off here.
Yeah. Yep.
To the physicality. I mean, he's gold. He's not white.
Why is he gold? Why is he gold?
He looks like an Oscar. He looks like an Oscar.
Oh, well, that's the first time I heard that. Most people say it's the C-3PO vibe, and it's no. It's the Cybercab Robovan vibe, because those are the colors that they're using. So that, I think, is the color of embodied AI that they're going with. Now, cool. There was another picture that Mark also posted out there showing him and Elon with your normal white colored Optimus. So it might be that this is the only one, or they're just kind of coming off and made that decision that all of them in the future are going to be LAs. It looks like there's minor tweaks, but it's Gen 2. This is not the Gen 3. This is not the prototype Gen 3 or anything like that.
Except for the hands.
And tell me about the hands.
Well, I don't know that they do anything. I didn't see them move at all. And they just may be a prosthetic, like literally just
they are mannequin hands. When you look up close, and then if you go online and search mannequin hands and go to like Mannequins R Us, you'll be able to find that there's a lot of them very much like now. So, I mean, that also caused, let's say, was part of the kerfuffle out there amongst the community. It's like, well, how awesome those hands are. Look what they've done. It's like, no, they haven't. So then why would they put them on there? And the answer is very simple, is Optimus is an office environment right now, walking around freely on his own, untethered.
Right. And
you're a skier. And when you fall, what is the most likely part of your body that you're going to break in many cases? Your hands. Yeah. Your hands or your wrist. And that's the most expensive part of the bot. So if the bot trips and falls, and especially if whatever development this particular team is doing in the bot right now, so they're not doing teleoperation, they're not trying to teach it manipulation or doing anything like that. They are trying to get the integration of the LLM, prove that out. It's not going to be there, but they're probably going to have it walking around. You don't want it to just fall down and suddenly break the arms and break the hands, and that's it. Especially if it's like the new gen hands. Like, look, we're not going to bother to do that. So it's very common to not put them there, but you want to have some sort of weight and everything else get the distribution. The other thing is it's a little bit of an homage to the very original Optimus design. If you think about it, I mean, that lower arm looked very much like the AI day one of the concept of what Optimus was supposed to look like. Now, if you were a little bit fooled and thought that was the new hand, it's okay, because we did see a couple of glimpses of the new gen hand, like catching the ball.
Yes.
And we saw a few of them, and it was remarkably human-like. Looking at it, where the heck, and also the forearm was very, very thin. So if if your first impression was like, and I had to look closely again, I'm looking at my own cell phone, so I wasn't able to zoom. Once you zoom in up on your computer screen, you look at the hand, you go, okay, yeah, that is a mannequin hand. But at first you're not kind of sure. And at first I watched this with the audio off. So I'm looking at it and it's like, what's going on? It must just be an Opticam. Maybe it was the prototype, and what they were looking at was basically the 3D model of it. And then suddenly it started to move, and I'm like, oh, then I got kind of freaked out. Say, oh, wait a minute, it is. And then it's, oh no, it's the same design. But let's say the covers are. It looks like they've done a little bit in the hip area to make the covers look a little bit neater and tighter. But basically, it's the same thing. All I've done is kind of change that, and that might be what we start to see a little bit forward. But do not read into this. This is not literally sleight of hand or anything like that, trying to trick anyone. It's just it's they're doing development work in which some VIPs just happened to cruise through, caught a video. It was sent out, I would say, kind of unauthorized in a way.
Yeah.
But it got out there, it got a lot of traction. And you won't learn anything about what the Gen 3 looks like. The Gen 3 is different. Elon has said that almost nothing will remain.
Yeah.
They're completely changing the design. So, and I think the major area, whoa, there go. Speaking of which,
did you lose your Optimus?
What? Yeah, one of them. The hip area, that whole hip area is probably going to be completely redesigned, especially the order of actuation will change, and I think the linear drives are going to go on. So right now, I've talked about this before, that the actuation order is ARF, or it's articulation, it's rotation, and it's then flexion. The flexion is really down deep, so that means its stride length is kind of short because it doesn't actually articulate up higher where you'd want it to be.
Right.
And so it's using what we call the ARF method, and everyone else has gone to the FAR method, which is using flexion, actuation, rotation. I suspect they're going to do that, and if they do that, it's really hard to kind of do that with the linear drives. It's just, so if you want flexion to actually be first, then you have to come up with a different strategy. Now, if they're doing it with linear drives and they're doing that order, then they've come up with a completely new kind of mechanism, which again is going to be a complete refresh. But I really think they're going to go with linears. Sorry, with rotary drives.
Yeah. So I just want to look at just the walking part here, because it's again, because this is Gen 2, maybe it's not even worth looking at, but it is certainly not stellar. You can see
it hasn't changed. There hasn't been any improvement. And you see is apologetically at the end, Elon says, "Oh, it's going to walk faster." And so they're not. See, that's the thing is this team is not focusing on that.
Right.
What they're focusing on is how can we get the interaction? Let's test it out. I mean, I'm assuming that's what it is. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I think if they are doing reinforcement learning for walking and going faster, they're probably doing it in some other area of the building.
Right. Yeah, and you would expect that to be in the tethered range too.
Yes, exactly.
Experimenting with new stuff. This is something that just works, and they're just
yes. And it's gathering data walking around. So I mean, that's part of polio at the house. Say, look, there's going to be people walk around, and there's things that are going to be changing. It means it has some sort of internal map in its head because it knows where the kitchen is.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's already, that's interesting. That's how did that get programmed in? How did it learn that? Right. Is that something you had to download, or did someone take it for a walk and say, "Hey, okay, Optimus, where you are right now is like, you're in the lobby. I'm going to take you to the kitchen. Follow me." Okay, follow. So this is the kitchen, and then maybe it builds that map.
It's also really good at navigating a jungle, apparently, because there's a lot of potted plants in here. I just noticed that. I was like, wow, they have a lot of greenery in this office. It's very nice. So anyway, so do you want to switch from that to figure? And
sure. I don't know if there was anything else to say about that. But
I mean, I think we can talk about
I think that's it. Yeah. Yep.
But okay. So we have a few different things. And again, I have to keep the sound off because it's annoying. We have the first one is folding of some clothes. Hopefully we'll see that. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Yes.
And this one goes on for a while. So anyway.
And one thing I want to say is that if anyone hasn't seen these figure videos yet, you can either go to their website or here. And if you scroll down, there's a link to a white paper on all of these. So the
Right.
so the one where they were doing the package sorting, the logistics sorting, this one here with folding a towel, and the next one we're going to look at where they explain a little bit of what's going on. So if you want to know, like, how are they doing it? What was the training data set, like everything else? Yes, it's a great resource. So yeah, I would encourage anyone to look at if they want to find a little bit more. So what's great, you see the data recovery there. You see it went for it and missed. The other thing is like the similarity between this and the logistics video, right? So it already knows how to do certain things. It doesn't know how to do the full towels. The logistics video took them about 60 to 80 hours of training to get there. That I think it's like they very quickly in like the first 20 hours or so got it doing quite a bit, and then it started to plateau, and then it got better. And if you look in the white paper, they kind of explain how that is. And it was really interesting. Like, why did it plateau? That you were like 20 hours and you didn't get any improvement in accuracy or anything else. And it could be that the first 20 hours you're not getting enough edge cases, or you're getting kind of like the right samples that you're getting in there. In order to get improvement, you've got to get more diverse data that allows you to get that improvement. So it's dealing with flexible bodies. It's having to understand separation of different things. So in the logistics video, they're also separating packages, and it's like keying in. It's like, I'm deciding to hunt this package, and these other packages come around there. They're not going to distract me. I'm going to separate that one and do it. And the same thing kind of happens here with the towels, is that sometimes a couple of them get mixed up and those kind of push them off. So really good error recovery. The speed may not be as fast as everyone would like to see, but you got to start somewhere. If they did this in like 60 to 80 hours of training data, that's crazy. This is okay. This is tens of hours of data. This is not hundreds of hours. This is tens of hours of data. So
4,000
and this, again, this is all autonomous, and this is all at 1x speed. So nothing has been sped up. That's the thing for everyone to say. Now, there's a couple other videos that came out after that, because the first thing everyone goes like, well, the towels are all the same color, and my wife would never let me, she would have me refold the towels and everything else. It's like, oh, I didn't put it in the basket. Just like, oh, okay. And someone asked like, yeah, but how fragile or brittle is this thing if you just change the height of the table? And so they do a flex where they show it folding and the table going up at the same time. And it's like, that's not that bad. And then I think another one came out like last week showing different color towels.
Right.
So it's like, okay, it's not effective, and also in different settings. So like I think the table rising one was in a completely different room where you can see the lighting and everything is different, because a lot of these models break if the environment is at all different. So that's a question of how brittle they are. So it seems to not be very brittle. Yes, there's going to be so many different types of towels. This is folding sheets is very different than doing this. Folding fitted sheets is going to be very different. There's still a lot to do.
Folding fitted sheets humans can't do.
yes. But what I'm seeing is they have a pretty good training model here. And a lot of people think like, oh, does that mean they're going to be going in the home right away? And I'm like, I still don't think so, for a couple reasons. I don't just mean figure. I mean, in general, there aren't going to be a lot going in there, because before they can go in home, they have to actually be safe.
Yeah.
And so there's still a few years away before you're able to do that. And a lot of the tasks in the home are very diverse, very chaotic, very different. And that's going to be a real challenge. That's a long tail. However, the skills that they're learning here can be applied in other areas in industry and in businesses. So in my home, I mean, I don't know, we got so many different size towels and colors of towels and brands of towels, like nothing matches.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a real challenge for it to go through that. But if you go to hospitality industry, to a Holiday Inn, Holiday Inn, all the towels are the same size. They're all the same color. Yeah. And you go from one Holiday Inn to another, they're probably all the same. Definitely the same one that's going to be there. Or in a restaurant or something like that, where you might be folding napkins. In that case, you don't have to worry about that we have, so many vast different things. Like, no, you just got the same napkins and they're being folded thousands of times a day. Just do that. As well as, whatever the skills are they have here are going to be transferable to other applications. We just don't know what those applications are yet, but it's going to be very fundamental. And this is the one thing that they say in the white paper. No changes to the Helix model, that they're taking the existing one and they're keep adding and adding and adding. It's not like there's a model for folding folding towels and another one for doing logistics.
I was trying to highlight that for some reason. It's right there. Same exact Helix, totally new data. So Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes,
very cool.
that's why it's worth to read the white paper. If you have a lot of questions, as I'm looking in the comments a lot of times, people put in this like, "What about this one?" It's like, read the white paper. It's all in there.
Right. I don't know why. Okay, I'm going to have to recycle this page because apparently it doesn't want to cooperate. What I wanted to show was this part at the end. I don't know why it's just not letting me go to the end. Oh, goodness gracious. And it's got the music playing, which is the part I don't want.
Yeah. Now, the one thing to say is that at the beginning of one of the videos, figure is instructed to do something and it replies.
Right.
So we've already seen the voice LLM work before, where it was told to do something and it went ahead and did it. This is the first time we've actually heard the voice of figure 2 in response. So that's the only thing that's missing by not playing the video. I mean, otherwise there's nothing in the sound except music explaining anything.
Yeah, but I did want to pause on this. So yes, it is responding. So the same as we're seeing with Optimus, in the sense that he's talking to it, it's responding. I well, but OpenAI's ChatGPT, since they seem to have broken off that relationship, but more than likely they didn't develop the LLM internally. They're using something like Llama or something, because why would you? I don't know, but maybe they are. Who knows? But we don't know about that. At least I don't, as far as I know. But what do you think about the hand? So as opposed to Optimus's hand, which was clearly mannequin hand, this is this has some dexterity to it. I mean,
yeah, it has dexterity.
This is like the bane. This is the bane of robotics, is soft objects. It's very much one thing to pick up hard objects over and over again, like boxes and stuff. Very much another to pick up soft objects that don't want to cooperate, like towels.
Yes. And so the hands are a little bit better than the Gen 2 Optimus hands for a couple. It has more degrees of freedom. So this is a 16-degree freedom hand. The Optimus is an 11-degree freedom. So that's the main difference.
Okay.
As far as the Gen 3 hand, if that's still going to be the Gen 3 hand, I have a feeling they're going to rework that hand. Whether it's still 22 DOF, I don't know. I've got a theory on that they might actually reduce the DOF count a little bit and do a couple other things, but it's not going to be at the same level because this does not have abduction. It has the flexion extension, and it's not using any tendons. So that's the other major difference. It doesn't have any tendons, which gives them much better position control as a result. So you're not relying on tendons, which are a little bit trickier to do that. So it's pretty good. And the one thing we're going to notice is that they all learn, or they're being shown like a little trick. And of course, it's being teleoperated. So the teleoperator is having to deal with his hands himself. It's very different. It's not like it's looking at human demonstrations where we do it one way and it can't copy it because it doesn't have the same dexterity. So the teleoperator that's training us, remember, this is autonomous, but there was training teleoperation being done beforehand. And in that, they had to deal with it, and they would then learn, what's the best way to deal with the limited mobility I have in my hand to be able to do this particular operation. And that's what it's being trained. And that's what's really pretty impressive, and will be even more impressive when we go to the loading of the dishwasher video, because they do a trick to be able to pick up the plates. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah.
And
there is. In fact,
and what I love about the trick is the fact that there is coordination between hands. So we're going to see that both hands are constantly being used. So it's loading a dishwasher a lot the way we would, that we might do an exchange from the hand that's more naturally positioned to be able to put it in the dishwasher versus the one that's able to grab something off the countertop more easily. So it's definitely doing that. And there's a certain efficiency to it because it can be doing two operations at the same time. So it's like grabbing something else while it's putting something else in there, as opposed to only doing one at a time. So that's rather interesting. And it's maybe a little bit rough with the dishes. It doesn't break any, but it does get them in there.
Yeah.
And these are your typical, almost like Airbnb dish set.
Yeah.
So you see what happens right there is they put a little bit of pressure on the other side to get the plate to flip up to make it a lot easier for the finger to get down there. And that's perfectly acceptable. I mean, if the robots just learn the tricks, we do that also. In a lot of human workspaces, there are little tricks and things that they will do to make things easier. So for instance, in the logistics video, when a thin piece of paper came out, that's really hard to pick up. Well, you know what? Right over on the side, there's like a little ramp. All you have to do is the things that are hard to pick up, you just kind of go over, slide it up the ramp, and you can get underneath it to catch it. And that not only makes it easier for the humanoids, it makes it easier for humans as well. And we may be able, with our fingertip strength, be able to get between the plates and pick it up one-handed. But in this case, even the glass plate, it's doing it that way. Now, there's still a long ways to go. Yes, it would be nice to see it load the
but there's also this
separation
nice little,
of plates. Yeah,
I like the way it just pulls the plates over towards itself. Like it kind of goes, which is a nice little cheat. It's like, oh, cool, make it easy on yourself.
Yeah. So it pops it up and gets his hand right underneath. Yeah.
It's also not loading the bottom rack of the dishwasher.
Yeah. Which is a lot of people commented that it's going to have to learn, the separation of different types of dinnerware that belong in different places, handling glasses, more comfortably. But again, this was probably like 100 hours.
Yeah.
And right now it's loading. They would have to do training to do unloading if they haven't already done that. So I'm just waiting for someone to say, oh yeah, but it can't unload. And then bam, comes the video that shows it unloading.
Brett seems to love it when people say something, when they troll him. He's like, the next day he pops out a video. He's like, oh yeah.
Yeah. So expect that. Right. But this kind of brings me to the whole thing is that it's just going to be a long tail to be able to do everything. So, seriously, it's like this will probably perform great in an Airbnb, because it seems like everyone's Airbnb, at least the ones I go to, all have
right.
Yeah, I mean it's unbelievable. It's always the same, and they almost always have the same dishwasher.
Yeah,
and so at some point it's like how to do it. You can almost close your eyes and exactly where everything goes. It's going to be something else when you get into your household where you have so many different types of plates and saucer cups and everything else. And then you have the fine china and all those things. That's going to take a long time. That's why, yes, they won't get into your home before they're safe.
Yeah.
But even if they are safe, they may not be very useful unless the AI is able to catch up, which I think it will eventually. It's just getting the diverse training data, but just don't expect it before 2030. Yeah. There's going to be some people that will have it in their house before 2030 and be able to kind of show it off. But for it to really be a consumer type of use case, it's going to be a while.
Right. I would say, just like you talked about the industrial usage at a hotel, at a restaurant, there you've got maybe three kinds of glasses, 3 or 4 kinds of plates. So it would be limited like this. And that's the situation where you're just washing dishes over and over. So it's like stack dishes, pull the handle down, does the washing thing, pull the handle up, unstack them.
Yes.
Yeah. So
it's almost the same. The dinnerware is the same. Everything is the same for a reason. So it'll work in some of those settings. Now, I think there's one more topic that we should probably get to, that anyone that was reading the first post from Mark Benioff will say, well, wait a minute. He mentioned something in there about 200 to 500,000. Let's kind of break that down. So he talks about the physical agent force. Okay, have you heard the term agent force before?
It sounds kind of like what his company does, but
his company is, and what's the name of his company?
Salesforce. Yeah.
Salesforce. Okay. Agent force is a thing. There is a digital agent force right now, which has resulted in, I think, the layoff of about 4,000 workers within Salesforce because they've been able to automate so much of it digitally.
Right.
It's very clear that he's thinking about the physical agent force.
Yeah.
It's interesting, this number he throws out, which is like 200K to 500K, which everyone's like, whoa, wait a minute, what's that number? I've tried to put that into context, I will in a second, exactly what that is. But before we do that, the one thing you may not be aware of, do you know that there is something called Salesforce Ventures?
Like a venture capital wing?
It's the venture capital arm of Salesforce. Oh, yes. And they post a lot of things out there. And a few weeks ago, they posted something that was basically guidelines for investing in humanoid bot space or in robotics, and kind of the 7 things you should be looking for in there. And One of them was like talking about videos, how to look at videos. Were they staged? Were they sped up? What are all these different things going on there? And one of the things, and there's like the best thing to do is always see it in person. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is right out of the playbook. Is like, all right, we're going to go see it in person. Okay. You're going to see it in person. And there's all these other things about like the quality of the people in there, the backing that they have, their vision, a bunch of these things. But it's a really well-researched, well-written guideline.
Yeah.
And that tells me that this is what they see as our next business model, physical AI. Now, does that mean they're going to be producing humanoid bots? No. Someone's going to start operating these fleets and figuring out where these fleets are going to be. And they're probably seeing that as like, this is the next big opportunity. Okay, now, what does that number represent to you? 200K to 500K. What do you think that means?
Well, I mean, the obvious thing when you're reading it is just that's how much it costs for these bots, but that doesn't seem reasonable.
No, I'm not sure that they even cost that much right now. These prototypes,
No,
maybe the prototypes, but I'm sure Tesla is probably able to produce them for less than that. So I think all of them are able to produce them like sub 100K.
Right.
So
that is only going down.
It's only going down. And CERN and Dr. Peramisic, they've done a bunch of these studies looking at, and they're all like, hey, 30K or something like that might be the cost of producing these, or potentially less. So if you're really conservative, you say 25, 30K. It's not going to be more than the production cost of a car.
Right.
So why this big number? Well, we've talked about this. It's going to be a RAS model, robot as a service model. Mm-hmm. So you will not be able to buy Optimus. You probably won't be able to buy Figure. You won't be able to buy Agility. I mean, right now, Agility Digit is by the hour.
Yeah,
they're a RAS model. So, and you kind of want that because that means they have all the headaches of managing the fleet and running it and everything else.
Exactly.
And you just are hiring this as a type of labor, but it's robotic labor. And the question is, how much is one bot going to be worth to you? And if you, depending upon the nature of your business, whether you are, 24/7 or just 5 days a week or something like that, and depending upon the level of that work, the value of that bot could be easily $200,000 to $500,000 per year.
Right.
If that bot's able to work, say 22 hours a day, 7 days a week, if you have that kind of business. Now, not everyone has that business. Like, the logistics sorting, you just imagine, oh my God, that must be what they do at DHL and UPS and FedEx all day long, right? They're just sorting those packages. Like, no, it's like about 5 or 6 hours, and then there's nothing to do because they're waiting for the next load to come in because, so there's like crunch time when all the planes arrive at the sorting facility. It's like, we got to get this stuff out. And then suddenly it dwindles. And then you're going to go find some. So there are some businesses that are going to be, we only need it really 8 hours of the day. And others that, you need it the whole day. And so the value is going to fluctuate on that and what it is and the replacement of that. So the question is that what the lease rate is? Or is that what he's kind of saying is this is how much value it has to that business owner. Right. And now that we know that what the value is, from there, we try to figure out exactly what they would be accepting, be willing to pay for this. It's definitely not the production cost. The production cost is well south of $100,000 once these things scale. It's easily.
Yeah. So the question is whether he's saying that Tesla, for example, would make 200 to 500,000, or whether I think that that was using it would make that much money, get that value.
It could be. So I see a couple, first it's like, oh, wait a minute. Is that how much it costs to produce? No, that's not how much it costs to produce. Is that what they're going to sell it for? No, because they're not going to sell it. No one's going to spend that much. Is that how much value it has to a business owner? Yes, possibly. Or the other thing, what I think it is like, that is the income potential of one bot over its lifetime for the corporation. So whoever is building these bots, it maybe it costs you $30,000 or $50,000 to produce. However, it will bring in easily $200,000 over the 3 to 5 year lifetime of the bot, whatever, or maybe the lifetime's even longer because it may be that the first couple of years it's state of the art.
Right.
People are paying a lot for it. And then the next generation models come out that are able to do a lot more. And suddenly it's like, okay, do we scrap this thing, or it's still useful? You know, it can go over and cut my neighbor's yard or something like that. I'll just send it on over there and make a few bucks rather than throwing. So it could be that kind of situation that he's looking at the potential for each one of these bots having a, but it's a funny number. I really don't know what it means. And that's what everyone kind of jumped on, saying, wait a minute, I thought these things were only going to be 20K.
Right. Yeah. It's just a weird way of putting it. If it was like tackling human work valued at $200,000, I'd be like, okay, I understand that. But it is weird. What else do we have? Oh, we have this felt a lot like the Optimus video that we saw maybe a year ago, where because he's blind, right? I think they
also blind. Yes, going blind.
So we've got figure 2, and he's just kind of walking and not falling down and walking over quite a bit of a mess. Like a bunch of broken pieces of wood and pallets, and
there's many places he should be tripping and falling forward, and you just see how rock solid the torso is. Like right there, it's almost like the torso is not even aware of what's going on down at the feet, because the feet are just so well at response. And just it was going up that cardboard ramp, and that was a wobbly cardboard ramp. It was up on.
And it even starts by hitting the curb there, which would normally I would have been tripping all over. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And instead it's just like, oh, okay. And so what it means is its reflexes are probably just so incredibly fast. Yeah. We just can't see that. And it's not even using its upper body to recover.
Right.
Which I'm finding that rather amazing, as you would think the arms would be flailing a little bit more. Yeah. So
it is impressive. It's like when you watch that and you see it just like, because you're right. The upper body, the torso doesn't really move, except for the most violent reactions. So it's very impressive.
It's just whereas if you look at a lot of the other examples of that, when that's happening with other bots, you are seeing them moving around as it tries to recover. Right. And it just seems like basic physics to me. That's like, it should have some movement there.
So it's very impressive that it's able to do that. So anyway, wanted to point that out. And I think, oh no, that's the same one. I thought I had the one about the laundry. So let's see. Hold on. To laundry. Let's see if I can find this quick. There we go.
Yes.
So we've got some laundry going on here, which is this is a little more variety of items. Obviously, it's not folding them, but it's got like clothes.
This is much easier. Much easier.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm more bullish on it being able to do this in the house than folding the laundry afterwards.
Yes.
And loading the dishwasher. Because that's going to be even unloading. I mean, it's like you can pull them out of the dishwasher, but the idea is not to repopulate the countertop and actually put them away. That's going to be a little bit trickier. But I think the idea of potentially collecting laundry and putting it in the hamper could be done. Or if it's not going to be able to do that, if you have a hamper like to have that, it's super easy for it to just go over, open it up, put them in there, maybe do a little bit of sorting by color, and then making sure it gets the settings right as far as, where these cotton or anything else. That will be fairly easy because you see there's really not that much room. I mean, the accuracy required here is very low. If you don't grab it the first time, it's not a big deal. Getting the second time, how big the clump is, all that, it really doesn't matter. So that's one that's going to be pretty easy. And I hope pretty soon they show it going through like the whole cycle of collecting everything, opening up the washer, putting it in there, putting in your Tide pods, setting whatever it's supposed to be, coming back, emptying it, and at least bringing it to a folding table. Oh, no. Emptying it and then putting it in the dryer. That would be the next thing. And then maybe emptying the dryer and then like, getting it over to wherever we need to fold it. And then maybe it starts to attempt to do some folding. But folding small towels is not and what I'd like to know is whether they can fold big towels now based on the small towel database.
Right.
Whether
that's
a
whole different thing, because you have to be like arm's width, like that's you can't
it's
just
a little bit different.
You have to
sheets will be different. I mean, sheets are completely different. Okay, because that's just too big. So maybe it's able to to somehow abstract itself outside of whatever that domain is and say, oh, what if it is a little bit bigger than anything I've seen before? Because normally if you show it big towels and small towels, it will figure out the medium towels in between. But I'm not sure if you only show it small and medium, whether they'll figure out the large. So that would be interesting to see whether it's able to do different colors and all that. But the main thing is going to be sorting the stuff out. Is like, oh, okay, here's the little daughter's clothes, here's the little boy's clothes. Little boys' t-shirts are a little bit different to fold than adult size t-shirts. That's going to be interesting as well. There's so many edge cases out there, or let's say, not necessarily edge cases, data diversification that's needed. It seems like, oh, if you fold this one item, you should be able to fold them well. They can be different colors, they can be different fabrics, stuff like that, different gender, all these other things. A blouse has to be folded a little bit different than a man's shirt. So,
yeah, it's a lot. I did want to point out the fact that we do have a sense of object permanence here, where clearly Figure cannot see its hand there for a minute and is still able to release it. So, it doesn't have to have visual contact always with the object.
Yes. So, and that's pointed out in the white papers that a lot of times it could be looking away and it kind of knows that thing should be there and it's still trying to perform the task. The other thing that I really liked about that is the way the elbow gets twisted around.
Yes.
It's just like it knows that's what it has to do to not hit the washing machine.
Yeah. That kind of like twisty motion. Yeah.
That's like one of those problems we've been trying to do in our simulation software for years of being able to generalize it. And it is so hard. It is just so hard. So to see him doing it just so effortlessly. And my instinct has always been, it's really hard to write a heuristic that does that. The math. I mean, it's pretty clear kind of what the math is. It's just that there's so many calculations and everything. It's just slow and you have to test so many different possibilities. Yet we as humans just instinctively know exactly what we have to do to our arm to make sure it doesn't bump into something. And I'm just like, how do we know that? And again, it's just from training. And that's why AI is able to do this so effortlessly. Because it just knows that that's how I have to use my hand to get in there. It's not actually calculating a collision-free path, which is what we end up doing heuristically. Every time we have, in our simulation and say, oh, I now want you to move over to here without hitting something. It's like it's the first time it's ever seen it, and it's going to calculate that whole thing.
Right.
And it's just like, oh, okay, So, but if you get the idea that, oh, I'm familiar with this route, you want me to go this way, I can close my eyes because I've seen that before. So that's the kind of thing is it has a knowledge base of solutions already in hand that's not calculating the solution all over again. It just says, hey, this worked last time, let's try it again.
Yeah, exactly. I do just a real quick thing I noticed here. Right there, you can see the ventilation for the because clearly these actuators produce heat, so you need someplace to exhaust the heat. So
yes, they produce a lot of heat, and that is a major problem with many of the bots. So someone showed a compilation of a lot of different research labs of like the Unitree bots just collapsing like for no reason. And what ends up happening is they just overheat. And when they overheat, they just shut down and collapse. So they don't have a graceful way of going into a sleep mode or something like that, which they probably should. They should be sensing that they're on the edge there and just say, okay, I need it. And so a lot of this is happening, and it happens really quick. I mean, it can happen within an hour or 90 minutes, depending upon what you're doing. So I've talked to a lot of people who have these, and they're like, oh yeah, you got to be really, really careful. And they seem to be having problems with cooling. Now there's a couple of reasons. So Figure has done a lot of studies, and they've made sure they have good, adequate cooling going on there. Optimus as well. They also have fans and everything else. So the CPU and everything, that's producing a certain amount of heat in the torso, but the actuators do. Now, you know why the actuators do create so much? You know what kind of transmission system they have, or reducers? They're harmonic drives. They're and the harmonic drives are kind of brilliant because they're very compact and they can get a really high gear ratios with what appears like almost nothing. Very lightweight. They don't have backlash, which is really was the whole idea of developing in the first place, but they're just so light and compact. But the way they do it is they use something called a strain wave, where they actually have kind of this gear that keeps on getting deformed as it goes around.
Okay.
It's a piece of metal. Now I want everyone to go into their closet and come out with a coat hanger. and take the coat hanger and just start bending it back and forth and back and forth.
It
and then after a couple minutes, touch the middle of the coat hanger and it's going to be hot. Yeah. You're going to get a lot of joule heating going on in there. And so this is what's happening is they actually have a piece of metal that's deforming back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's generating heat. Now, do you know what the efficiency of these things is of a harmonic drive?
I have no idea.
In theory, they say 70%. So in other words, 30% of the power going into that drive is getting turned into heat energy. Okay.
Right.
That's the theory. The practice has been told, and these are people who actually build these actuators and everything else. It's like 40 to 60% or something like that.
Oh gosh. So you're losing half of it.
Yes, they are losing a lot of energy.
Yeah.
A lot of them. Now, not all actuators are the same.
Yeah.
Figure is not having any mechanical problems. They don't have overheating problems. They don't have it suddenly collapsing from that. So they've done a very good design on it. And a lot of it comes down to not all harmonic drives are the same. They say it's like a lot of people say harmonic drives should be able to be 70%. If you're seeing 40%, there's something wrong with the way your harmonic drives are designed or implemented. Or it may also be something about how the placement that you have the actuators. Because remember, a lot of these actuators are also the hinge. They are the joint themselves, which means they are taking other loads, side loads that could also be compromising the whole thing. And it turns out that it's not the motors that are overheating. The motor gets so hot that it overheats the electronics that's in the motor. And that's what shuts down. So these actuators are basically a sandwich, where the top piece of bread is the control board.
Yep.
Then in the middle, the meat is the actual motor itself.
Right.
And then the bottom piece there, that's your reducer. That's going to be your output. And they're made out of metallic components.
Right.
And so even though all the heat's being generated down here, you got a lot of metal up there that's just going to conduct it on up. And so you need to have adequate cooling and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, Figure has not had, and the deployments that they've done at BMW, they have not had any hardware failures where it suddenly overheats or anything like that. So, so it can be done. And part of it is, again, good ventilation, and all of it comes down to design, understanding the efficiency that you have, how much air you have to push through, everything about your environment. Good engineering is able to sort that out.
Yeah, that's really impressive, actually, if you think about it. And at this point, it's such early days for these robots that it's sort of like, trying to figure out what the best actuators are, what the best design is.
Yes.
Linear, that's been a question. So there's a lot of really interesting questions that are unresolved still. And
right.
The fact that, it seems like a harmonic drive is the right way to go, but maybe it's not. Maybe there will be something.
There are a couple others that are out there. There's planetary gears, which they're too heavy and they have backlash.
Yeah.
So for most part, no one's really using planetary gears except in a couple places. However, I would not be surprised if people revisit them and say, okay, so what's the problem with these things again? So, is there some way we can make them competitive? There's kind of a version of the planetary gear. It's a little bit different, called the Archimedes drive.
Okay.
Which doesn't have 0 teeth. It has infinite teeth. Okay. If you think of it as having 0 teeth, it's very different. You take it in the limit where your gear teeth get very, very small. And it's kind of interesting. It doesn't have backlash, yet it does have a braking torque. In other words, it has a slip torque. When you get too excessive, it will actually slide out of the way, which makes it kind of a safety kind of thing. The only question is whether it will be light enough and compact enough for these. However, its cost could be pretty low because it's more like building bushings as opposed to trying to build harmonic drives. And harmonic drives require pretty sophisticated machining. There's several ways that you can do it. You can either EDM, or you use these special kind of skiving machines, or that you normally use for being able to build gears. And that's an expensive process, and it's slow. It's like these harmonic drive units, you'd be talking like 45 minutes using some of these methods to be able to produce.
Yeah.
Linear drives open up a completely different thing. So we know Tesla, half of them is linear drives. We may have talked about this already, but a lot of people may not be aware of it, that the components that go into the linear drive reducer is very different than a harmonic drive. So it's not a harmonic drive. It uses something called a planetary roller screw, and it needs about 10 of them for each. And it also needs this highly well-machined internal threaded piece, and because they're using like the inverted planetary roller screw. And the roller screws themselves can take close to 10 minutes to manufacture a piece. Okay. It's not like the normal screws that you go down the hardware store. These are highly precise kind of pieces that have to be made. And then the internal threaded screw also can take about 45 minutes. So if you set up a production line, you're able to produce enough components in about 1 hour with like, you know, the one pieces of equipment that you have for everything to be able to produce one linear drive. And if you need 14 of them and everything, it's like, my goodness, it's like, you know, we're only able about one a day. So we're going to have lots and lots of these CNC machines. Now, there are these farms of CNC machines. I saw today posted on X, you know, one of these in Shanghai, that's a hall full of like over 2,000 CNC machines just to produce stuff. So if you need to produce large components, it can be done, but it is kind of costly in the precision that's needed. And so that's a stumbling block to scaling, as well as there's some issues about the reliability in additional components. And that's why I think Tesla is revisiting the whole idea of whether they're going to go that route going forward, because most of the herd has moved towards doing everything rotary. Doesn't mean you follow the herd though. Okay. It's like you do what you believe is best. Right. If you're following the herd, you're copying everyone's homework. So there are a lot of reasons they went to linear drives. I have a feeling they may reduce the number of linear drives, but they may not eliminate all of them, because there's a couple places where they may make sense, like in the ankle and like in the wrist.
But
everywhere else, I think
right here.
unnecessary. Yes.
Yep. So it's and again, it's at this point, if you just blindly follow what everybody else is doing, you're not. Like, if everybody else is going down the wrong path, that means you're doing it too. So you should, this is too early of a days. Probably in 5 years, it's going to be pretty standardized and everybody's going to know what the actuator is.
And we need people pushing the boundaries, because nobody really knows what they're doing. Right. And if you're just following someone, you aren't really discovering anything new. So, we definitely have to have that. But back in my youth, I used to crew on a boat that a sailboat, and that's one of the things you kind of learned about sailing in a sailing race is you always covered the fleet, they would say. So you always sailed wherever the fleet was going, because you didn't want to be the guy that was caught out there in the wrong way. But every now and then someone would take a flyer. Because he was like, he had a much better weather eye than everyone else. And he was pretty sure the wind was going to build for him before everyone else, and would go off in a different direction. Right. And everyone's like, oh, should we follow? No, stay with the fleet. Right. And the idea of staying with the fleet is like, you're guaranteed maybe not to come into last place. That's all you're doing is you're covering not losing. You're not actually attempting to win. Right. And in some cases, if you want to win, you may have to take the flyer. That's why you have some companies out there taking a slightly different approach, like Clone, which is doing some really weird stuff. And also the other transmission system that is also gaining some popularity is cycloidals. So Foundation is using cycloidals instead of harmonics. It also, is pretty compact. It is fairly easy to build, and it's one of those things that's both easy and hard at the same time. There's some challenges to putting together, but in principle, it should be easier than building a geared mechanism. And a few other things you have to take care of, but also is very good that it doesn't have backlash. So, and there was a Chinese bot company out there the other day that just showed the world's first fully, cycloidal bot running around, something like that. But I think Foundation may also be in Persona, Jerry Pratt's company. And Jerry Pratt is former Figure AI and also former Boston Dynamics, has a company that's Houston, Pensacola based. And it looks like they're also going, pretty much into that. So that's the other one to look out for as a possible kind of reducer, as opposed to the others that may not have the same problems. I think they have I think they have a much higher transmission ratio as well. I think they might be closer to 90%, which is pretty good. And the thing about the planetary roller screws, they're also like 90% efficient. That's one of the reasons that Tesla might want to stick with it, is because they say, hey, it's higher efficiency.
Yeah. Half of their like actuators or something, that's still saving you a lot of energy that you're expending for uselessly.
Yes.
Like
yes.
Increase half of your actuators to 90% as opposed to 50% or 60%, then that's a pretty big benefit. So yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a huge benefit. Absolutely a huge benefit.
Yeah.
And especially if it turns out power drain is not your problem, it's overheating.
Yeah.
So I would say 90% is better because of the less overheating versus the less power drain.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Okay, so we've talked for quite a while. Have any other thoughts about this? I guess people probably want to know. Yeah, people always want to know who's in the lead right now.
Okay.
So, what's your ranking? Top 5.
So yeah. It's one of those that I don't like to say who's leading because we don't know enough. The analogy I like to use, it's like, you want to say, so who's going to win the World Series based on the first day of spring training? Right. And all I've seen is batting practice. And about all you can do is say that, well, I'm going to go with the Yankees because, they have the storied history. They've won the most. They have the biggest payroll, good management, all this other stuff. That's kind of Tesla, right? I mean, they're the New York Yankees that comes out there. You don't want to bet against them. So now, every now and then, the Yankees will have a midseason swoon and they have to dig out of a hole to get back in there. But I mean, we haven't even had the first Grapefruit League games yet. Okay. We haven't even seen these in the wild. It literally, we're just at the batting practice stage and we're trying to judge who's the leader on that. So until we even get the Grapefruit, at that point, you might be able to say, we see the standings.
I'm by the way going to make a request now that we're talking about baseball. I want to see a robotic baseball league. So just like we talked about the Olympics before, I think baseball that's a lot of skills. So let's see some baseball teams.
Yeah, that can be. So right now,
what can we call it? What can we call it? Not the Cactus League, not the great. We need to come up with the name for the league for the humanoid robotics.
That's true. That's true.
We'll think of something. So, all right. If you have ideas, suggest them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway,
based on that, I think the best thing to say is that on the first day of spring training,
right,
based on batting practice, everyone can say, I don't know, Yankees look like the team to beat.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So pretty much, let's say spring training, the first day of batting practice was Tesla with their announcement. And it's like they were the team to beat because there was nobody else out there. We hadn't seen anything. They weren't the team to beat. And now, they didn't look so, the second day of batting practice, they didn't look so good. Okay. They had some problems. They suddenly realized that, hey, our batting coach, he's the wrong guy. We're going to bring in a new batting coach. We're going to, and then, so you're looking at over some of the other teams there and say, wow, those guys are figure, man. They're hitting the ball pretty well. They look pretty good. So right now, figure is the team to beat.
Yeah, I think so.
Don't take that as like they're the leader. Take that as like they are the team to beat. Now, if we're going to take the analogies a little bit further, there are other companies out there that are doing pretty well. Like, who's leading right now? First, how do you define leading?
Yeah, what's the lead?
I think useful work, generating income. Boom. You know what? Digit, agility.
Yeah, agility.
They already announced back in, I think, in June, July, that they've been on the job for 1 year at GXO.
Right.
Getting money, doing useful work. So based on that definition, who else is there? Figure is a close, I don't know a close second. They're second because we know they're doing some work at BMW, but I don't know if they've been doing it quite to the same scales. Maybe, definitely not as long as there. So it's like, oh, okay. If you want to do the metric that way, that's another way of looking at where they are. But again, it's very early. And the other thing is that, you go to these batting practices, you see what's going on. You look at how some of these guys in the minor leagues, you look at the coaching staff and all that. It's like, okay, so who's your dark horse favorite? You have a dark horse favorite?
Who is it? Oh, you asked
Aptronics. It's Aptronics.
Is mine. Yeah, that's what.
Aptronics that's the dark horse favorite. Yeah, exactly.
And I think they're the dark horse also because they just don't go for publicity.
Yeah,
You know, you see
that too.
Elon and Brett, they love to get the publicity and to get people jazzed.
Yeah, exactly.
Medtronic
It's
is
like a UFC title fight. You know, they're out there trash talking themselves, and
right.
in Aptronic, they keep their mouth shut and they just show up and you know,
Right.
let their performance speak. You know, so
Exactly.
I think that is, you know, one of the companies. And Boston Dynamics, I mean, they've been doing some stuff. I'm just not a big fan of their hand design. It's like, why don't you have a more humanoid? But they've also shown some recent progress in the area of AI. So they're one of those that you can't count out either, that they may kind of surprise everything. I just don't know that they would be scalable, that they built a bot that is going to be cheap enough long term, but they made definitely some improvements. So
they're like to use the analogy even more, they're like the 35-year-old baseball player that, you know, he was a hot shot when he was 20, that he kind of had a slump and now he's trying to make a comeback.
The natural. Yeah. So suddenly he's got that one more season in him. Yeah, that's possible.
Can we get one more season out of him? So yeah. So I like this. Instead of thinking about it as the early innings of a baseball game, it's more like the first day of spring practice of the whole baseball season. That's what we're watching. Yes.
So now the one thing you can say about Boston Dynamics is they're doing a lot of things that are better than others, as far as like their mobility and dexterity and kind of the agility that they have, and also their latest models is showing you picking up the parts or squatting down, stuff like that. It's like, okay, you know, that's not too bad, but their arm looks more like an industrial arm than it does a humanoid arm. So it's humanoid-esque. As a poise, you know, because its wrist is awful. It's an industrial robot arm wrist, and they have literally like an end effector versus a hand. So it's a 3-finger kind of gripper that they're calling a hand that has unnaturally long fingers. There's a lot of other weird things that is great for the applications that they are aiming for. So they probably will do well there, but I just don't think it's going to be your general purpose hand that you like to see it. And that's another area of discussion. I mean, everyone's like, what's the best hand? What does general purpose mean? Do we want it to be more special purpose? Why don't we have them on wheels? You know, why are they bipedal? And they're all worthy arguments and good arguments. And I hope to be talking to a few people that are going to give me the other side pretty soon. And I think, well, I guess like the sleeper. Okay, so you get the dark horse, and then the sleeper might be a surprise one, which is Borg. It's you know, they're not going to knock off Tesla or Figure or even Apple. But what they might do is they might thinking 1X. Yeah, 1X is another possibility too. It's just because you know 1X has like the 1X is kind of like clone. They've done the flyer that they're using a very good actuation strategy, and if it works for them, they'll be the first ones in the home because they're going to be the first one that's safe because they already have their mass is like half of everyone else. They are a lot softer, so if it fell on you, it wouldn't hurt as much as the other bots. It's just that, again, the home environment is such a chaotic, diverse environment, which is why they want to go in there, because they believe like, if you can tackle that, you can tackle anything, but it might be a lot longer before it becomes useful. But you know, the reason why I pointed out, they're a small team up in Detroit that is looking at the humanoid thing a little bit different, and they are using a mobile platform, and and they're looking at moving pallets around, stuff like that. So they're going for a more industrial setting of trying to figure out how to help out there, and they're one that's kind of looking as, you know, that they'll probably be successful because they're going to be in a certain space. It's a little kind of logistics like, but a little bit different. And if I was agility, I might be a little bit worried because their mobility that they have on their wheeled base is definitely a lot faster than a bipedal robot. And so, you know, that might be one of the challenges that agility is going to have in others, is that they're going to get their walking speeds up. I mean, they seem too tentative when they're walking to me. I mean, their stability is great. They showed some of you can't knock Digit over now. It's you know, it's like all of a sudden the full body control. And the other thing that's amazing, and I just put a post out there, is that they have no no waist joints. They only have a hip. They have no waist joints. Everyone else got almost everyone else has one. And yet, despite that, they can lean and do other things because they just use their legs. And so you don't realize is that a lot of the movement of your torso, of like if you want to get your shoulders back and forth, you don't need to actually do it with your waist. You can do it with your hip if you want. And so they do a splendid job of moving that around. But what they need to do is they need to get a little bit more speed, especially walking. You know, it's like tippy-toeing around is not going to do it, especially if someone else is breathing down your back. That's like, hey, guess what? We got wheels. and we get 4-wheel steering. So not only can we go in there really quickly, we can slide over really quick and come in somewhere else.
Right.
They're early days, it's a team of 3 guys, but it's like, one of those, oh, okay, there's a potential sleeper because they are looking at it in that way that a lot of people say, like, why not wheels? And it's like, you know what?
Right.
There's a lot of I don't know if I want to call them necessarily niche. We can say they're niche applications. They're going to be niche applications where wheels make way more sense. All right. Yeah. And there's going to be applications where bipedals make way more sense.
This is what you're talking about, right? Yeah. Board.
Yes. And they just posted yesterday. So those were more or less renderings. And they've actually posted now a real working bot.
Oh, okay.
Which basically looks like that. It's kind of the same thing. And they will have a walking version, but right now they're looking at the wheeled version with the torso that extends up and going around and basically moving pallets around. And they've done it by bootstrapping.
Yeah.
So they actually have a lot of customers in the metropolitan Detroit area that are working with them, telling them what their needs are. So they've actually talked to customers and have some use cases. So that's why I say, they're the sleeper. Is it the sleeper or the Cinderella? I mean, we got dark horse. It's like,
got to come up with all the different names for things.
Yeah. So, yeah. And Foundation is also one to keep an eye on. And then the wild card is of course, China. Is that there's so much going on there that we know there's going to be competition coming out of there.
Right. Yeah. China seems to have been very, very heavily focused on overall body, like speed of walking, ability to do calisthenics. Like they've been less focused on hands, at least the parts that I've seen.
Yes. Yeah. And this is where, while it's nice to say, oh, I have a bot that can do somersaults and can do all these other things. Yeah. You need some squatting ability because you kind of need that. But a lot of, the backflips and all these other things, they are not necessary for the work environment in the majority of them. So you may be putting engineering design and energy in the wrong place. Right. So it's like really focus on it. And the focus, as I've said, are the hands. The business end of the robot is the hands. And what you're suddenly seeing now in China is like an explosion of companies with hand designs now.
Yeah.
So 6 months ago, there was like barely anything. And now it's like, oh, there's a bunch of interesting ones coming because they know that's the next stage. But at first, the government program was, you got to build a walking bot. You get the walking bot, then we can start talking about the next thing. And that is going to be the hands and the mobility. But the one thing the Chinese are doing is they're not looking at a RAS model, at least not now. They are selling direct to consumers. So both Unitree and Booster, you can buy those bots and they're like under 10 grand. Like now is possible to get them as low as $6,000. Wow. But they don't do anything. I mean, the programming is up to you. There's still a lot you have to do on your own. So, and that's going to be the difference. At first, they're Hobbit size, right? They're not full scale. They do have reliability problems. I don't think they're safe because they will just walk into people, and all the programming is going to be you. And for the most part, they don't have hands. They put on a glove to make you think they've got a hand, and then you realize, there isn't a mannequin hand. That's all it is. So that's going to be the next thing. But it is one of those smart strategies. They're saying, hey, if we get some of them out there, maybe people will solve the AI embodiment problem for us.
Yeah. Well, and they're collecting data. There's a value to having them out in the world.
And anyone that's thinking of like buying a bot for personal use, that they, because these are anywhere from, at first they were $16K to about $70,000. They now have just announced a new one, which is $6,000, I think, but I don't think it's going to be available to the fall. So you'll still have to pay that. I know Booster has one that I think is under 10 grand now as well. That's the one that was like going around playing soccer. But if you want to go onshore, K-scale. So they're also trying to build these cheaper bots that people will be able to start using and do training and trying to get into universities and everything else. And I think the founder is also a former Tesla engineer. So that's another one to kind of look at, that if you actually are a research institute and you want to find something. Unfortunately, all the servos are still being sourced overseas. We don't have a good industry here to be able to do that. However, I do know someone is planning to scale up something like that, probably in the Bay Area eventually, who's looking at that. So that will probably be happening pretty soon, that you start seeing a more domestic production of a lot of different actuators.
Interesting. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I'll just pop that up while we're saying goodbye. This looks like K-scale, so it's got like a little iPad. It's got an iPad for a head.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. But you can see it doing useful work with a toaster. All right. So, and again, thank you so much, Scott. This is like a lot of information that's being fed into my brain as well as everybody else's, I'm sure. So I really appreciate that. Very interesting to hear your thoughts on all this. And of course, the wonderful part about all this is we get to cheer on everybody and we get to say,
exactly. Exactly. So, again, it's just like baseball, everyone just find whoever the home team is.
Yep. And
root for them
and cheer it on. So,
yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much. Everybody definitely follow Scott. His information is right there. You can see Going Ballistic 5 or in the description. And of course, be sure to like and subscribe this video. We will see you in the next one.
And remember, and looking for you in Chicago, 60609.